How's it going, everyone? Nick from Comic Culture here. It is time for Nick at Night, the non-spoilery talk about the books we picked up this past week, the week of December 15th, 2021. We got a healthy little stack here. Let's get into it. Welcome back, guys. We're doing some comic book reviews. We're going to start with the big two, as always. Going over to Hulk, issue number 2 from Donny Cates and Ryan Ottley. Man, have we had a book lately that has been so controversial in a way, right? We have so many people who are cautiously optimistic, and I feel like I'm in that boat. And we have a lot of people who are reading this going just like, no, and they're just disregarding it completely right off the bat, right after like issue number 1. I don't blame you at all. It's a book that you either love or hate right now. I feel like the reason that is because we're coming out of a great run of Immortal Hulk. That book was just great. It was a great psychological study. It had a lot of depth. The art was crazy. And everybody just seemed to love that book. And then we're getting into this, and the flavor, the style, the vibe that it's bringing, that it's putting off right now is just so different. And because it's so different, I think it's putting off a lot of people. If you like Ryan Ottley art, you're going to love this. If you like Donny Cates' writing, I think you're going to like this. I don't know if you're a big fan of the Hulk, you're going to like this. I think that's the problem. The writing is fine. The concept is crazy. It's odd. It's insane. The art is really, really impressive too. So basically we have the Hulk right here. Bruce Banner's kind of found out a way to separate the mind a little bit. We have like this Starship Hulk, I think they're calling it. We have Bruce Banner kind of piloting it from like a captain's chair kind of perspective. And then we have this engine room, and this engine room is the Hulk kind of locked away. And whenever Banner needs more rage, needs more power, he kind of just pisses that Hulk off by sending armies at him. And again, it's all just like psychological. It's nothing like real and tangible. What they did to the Hulk physically, in his physical form, he's like mechanized in a way. He's got these different attachments. He's like a cyborg almost. Banner's idea is to just escape, just get away. He knows Earth does not have any kind of contingency plan against him. He's going to get the hell out of here. So he does that. He finds a way to get out of there. And this issue here kind of goes into where he ends up. It's like, people are looking for him. Who's looking for him? Some unlikely people. And we kind of find out in this book here. Again, I touched on the art already. The art's crazy. I can see why in some of the interviews that Donny and Ottley were having, they were saying, can we really do this? Is editorial going to let us do this? Is Marvel going to let us do this panel? And they've been saying, yeah. And I can see what they're kind of talking about here. I can definitely say that there's a reason why people are so like hot or cold on this book right now. And I think if you're a big Hulk fan, you're going to be disappointed. Maybe there's going to be some cool things going on in their opinions, but like I can see why people are so divisive on this one. So number 2, I thought it was pretty good. I'm going to keep reading it, obviously, because it's like just crazy. But like if you're coming out of Immortal Hulk and you're expecting that vibe going into this book, you're going to be disappointed. So just kind of keep that in mind. So that was actually the only Marvel book that I picked up this past week. We got a stack of DC though. So let's go take a look and see what I got there. All right, we're going to start off DC with some Wonder Girl issue number 6 with that awesome variant cover on here. If you're a Yara Flora fan, and I would say that I'm a Yara Flora fan, I think one of the things that kind of attracted us to her was kind of just like her personality, the way that she kind of like throws caution to the wind. She's got this sense of humor. So it's almost like a Deadpoolish type humor to her. She's very, very capable and everything. And now she's been trained by the gods. And when it came time for her to kind of take the sacrificial wine to become immortal, she said, screw that, I'm on my own. I'm going to take care of business on my own way. And she got exiled. And this issue right here is what the consequences of her actions have led to. So this is a gigantic escape issue right here, which I thought was pretty awesome. The art from Joelle Jones is beautiful. If you've enjoyed what you've seen so far, you get nothing more, or you get nothing but more of that. It's really interesting. I love the coloring and the artwork and the line work in this book right here. It's just a really, really fun book. If you've been enjoying the other ones, I think you're going to like this one as well. And if you don't know anything about Yara Flora, check her out. She's a pretty cool Wonder Girl. So I would recommend Wonder Girl for sure if you're into that. All right, going over to Robin and Batman. I almost said Batman and Robin again. Robin and Batman from Jeff Lemire. This is issue number 2 of 3. What a cool issue. It's kind of like supplemental stories to Dick Grayson's origin. It's kind of like, they're not rewriting history from what I can tell here. This is like what happens kind of in between the issues of, the old Batman books, which I think is really interesting for a guy like me who doesn't really know a whole lot about the different Robins and who's not up to date on all the classic stories and things like that. So I like reading these kinds of things because it gives me some context. It gives me some understanding between Bruce and Dick Grayson here. So now we have a Dick Grayson who just got his new uniform. It's his birthday. Bruce is kind of bringing him to the Justice League satellite space station that's up there. And he's going to just, tell him, as a present, you're just going to hang out. Just chill. Hang out with everybody. And he kind of meets the new Teen Titans up there. So he's interacting with all the different guys up there, and it's pretty interesting. They get into some trouble. They kind of go out on their own and take care of some business without the adults really understanding or knowing what's going on. I thought that was a pretty cool little sneak away kind of scene in there. The art's really interesting. And I think the story's fun. It's really fast read. It's interesting. And then we learn some ulterior motives of Bruce, and we understand just how in sync Bruce and Dick Grayson are when it comes to the job, right? The job at hand. It's not all fun and games. We understand there's kind of ulterior motives towards the end of the story. And I thought that was just really cool the way they revealed that. And it just kind of shows how smart Dick Grayson is. And I absolutely loved this issue. Only one more issue. It's only a 3-issue series, which is kind of disappointing. I could go for like another 3 more and go for a 6-issue run of this. But it is what it is. And we also got a little bit of Killer Croc in here too. So I can't wait to see what else comes out of Robin and Batman. Not Batman and Robin. Robin and Batman. Okay, going over to Joker number 10 from Tynan. Also featuring Punchline. This cover is very familiar. It reminds me of that right around Punchline was introduced. There was like a Joker playing chess kind of a cover. So this is kind of like an homage to that cover right here. I gotta be honest, I'm kind of over Joker right now. This issue, there was another issue too, I don't remember the number. There was an issue where it was basically a backstory on Jim Gordon. It had nothing to do with the current timeline. It had nothing to do with the current story. It was like just a random one-off issue of a past day or week that Jim Gordon had. This is exactly the same thing as that. So if you haven't been enjoying where the current story has been taking you, but you enjoy these little like one-off stories of Commissioner Gordon and his family and how the events of Killing Joke really affected everybody, this is exactly like that. So I actually enjoyed this one. I enjoyed the other flashback issue too. I don't actually like the main run, but I don't know how many of these kinds of issues I can handle all in one. And I'm not really that excited to keep going with Joker. I'm really not. I think Tynan mentioned he's going to fall off around issue 14. I'm probably going to pick up till issue 14, figure out what his great arc was all about, and then I'm probably going to drop it because I don't really care. But interesting art and everything in this book. Again, this is a cool story, backstory on Jim Gordon. This is more involving his son and Barbara, and Batman makes an appearance in here too. And it's just more about the psychological trauma that he's caused his family, that the Joker's caused the Gordon family. And so I thought that was pretty interesting. But Joker overall has just kind of been down, down, down for me, or at least stayed kind of stagnant in a way. But let me know what you guys think about Joker. And is it kind of meeting your expectations, and is it blowing you away every single time it comes out? All right, moving over to a book I was actually really excited about reading, and it came off okay for me. It was Batgirls number 1. So this book right here was actually brought to my attention in the back issues of, I believe it was just the main Batman run, coming out of the Fear State tie-ins and the Fear State issues. So we have our Batgirls here, which I thought was great. I actually don't know anything about Cassandra Cain, but like reading some of the Nightwing stuff and reading some of the Batman stuff, she's earned my respect, probably more than everybody else. I like Oracle where she is. I don't really know much about Stephanie. And then Cassandra is like a badass. I actually really like her. She's probably the main reason why I picked this up besides the art in here. The art in here is actually refreshingly cool. I just love the way it's drawn. I love the scratchiness of it. I love the coloring and everything inside of here. And you guys know me, I'm a fan of when an artist utilizes the background. I'm not a big fan, unless it just works artistically, with people who ignore the backgrounds, people who don't use a lot of detail in their art. This book kind of gives me that, so it really kind of turned me on from a curiosity perspective and from an art perspective here. So this is our issue where the 3 girls are rooming. They're getting an apartment together. They're kind of moving in, going through those old routines. Where are people going to sleep? Who's going to take the top bunk? Who's going to go order for groceries? Who's going to pick up the food? Things like that. And then, of course, it wouldn't be the Batgirls without some kind of hell breaking loose. and some gangs popping up and stuff like that. I will say the art is probably the best thing about this book, in my opinion. The story didn't really grip me, but there's a lot of cool things going on in this book. I think if you have any young girls or something like that, I think they're going to be interested in this book for sure. I think it's a great book for them to get started in comic books. I think it's a good book for some younger kids to get into. The dialogue is very interesting. It's not very hard to read or anything like that. And I think the story was somewhat compelling. It just wasn't something that I was looking for at the moment. But yeah, so this book is actually pretty interesting. I don't know if I'm going to keep reading it, but I can see why people would like it, and I can recommend it for younger readers out there who kind of want to get in and figure out this female team right here. So Batgirls #1, maybe not for me, but it's going to be for a lot of other people. All right, and the last DC book we picked up this week was Batman the Imposter. This is issue #3 from Tomlin, Sorrentino, and Jordi Belair. Now, this book is really cool. This book makes me want to go back and watch the trailers for the new Batman movie coming out soon. It's got that vibe to it. It's definitely a book that kind of puts you in that headspace. You can see those actors playing these roles. You can kind of use their voices almost in here. And what's great about this book is this is the conclusion of the imposter. Who is the imposter? Batman's been framed. This guy's going around killing all these people. He's trying to piece together all these clues to figure out not only who's doing it, but why, what's the motivations. So we get all that in this issue. We get some really cool fight scenes in here. Of course, the coloring and the art is going to be absolutely crazy. The panel work in the fights in this book are crazy. You get these little close-up shots of these detailed moments, these specific moments, these real close-up shots, and the color palette changes. It's really beautiful. It's well executed. I really did enjoy that. If you're looking for a Batman book without a whole lot of investment, it's violent. It's a detective story. It's got some passion in it. It's got some relationship building. It's got some mystery and everything. And I think it's got a satisfying ending as well. If you're looking for like a year one kind of a Batman book without a lot of commitment, this might be a book for you. I would highly recommend it. And you can't go wrong with that creative team as well. And it's kind of square bound, which is interesting too. So yeah, Batman the Imposter, absolutely love it. It is a $7 book though, each issue. So that's something to take in consideration at least. But pretty cool stuff coming out of Batman the Imposter. The next book we're going to talk about comes from Awa Upshot. It is out issue #3. It's a pretty cool little escape from the superhero pile we just kind of got through over here. It's more about the Nazis trying to utilize these like ancient evils and kind of channel their evil and take over the world, right? Help them win the war. And so we have our group of American prisoners. They're accompanied by like a linguistic analyst or expert. He's a Native American fighting on the American side. He can kind of communicate with this monster. This monster is hungry. This monster needs to feed. The Nazis are trying to figure out a way to control them. And then you have all this fighting going on the American side. They're trying to escape. They're trying to plot and scheme their way out of this camp as well. And they don't really know what's going on. Only a few people understand the true horrors that are inside of this camp. So it's a pretty interesting book about the internal fighting between all these Americans and whatnot, them trying to battle the fact that they're in prison right now, and then the Nazis have their own agenda trying to bring this like supernatural evil out to kind of help them win the war. So pretty interesting book. The art is really great too, I think. It handles the gore really well. Again, it's a book that utilizes the backgrounds, which I really enjoy. And so, yeah, so if you like wartime stories, if you like stories about supernatural evils that are trying to be like resurrected and brought up, this might be a cool book for you. And especially if you're into like the war kinds of realms and stuff like that. So out issue #3, there's 5 issues of this, AWA Upshot. Check it out if you want to get away from some of the superhero stuff. All right, we talked about him once. We're going to talk about him again. We got Jeff Lemire on Mazebook, issue #4. What a great series this is right here. It's a great series, and it's a story about a man who's basically been depressed ever since his daughter passed away, presumably from cancer. And it's a story about how his life has fallen apart, how he doesn't take his job that seriously anymore. He's losing his friends. He lost his wife. His wife is trying to move on, trying to kind of pick up the pieces, but he just can't do it. And so some time has passed, and he kind of starts getting these feelings. He's getting these different calls to him that kind of say, you know, maybe she's still around. Maybe she didn't die. Maybe she's somewhere else. Maybe she's hidden somewhere, and you have to kind of find her, right? And so he's kind of pursuing those feelings right there, and he kind of actually goes into the maze, right? His daughter was kind of obsessed with mazes, and he finds his way into the maze. So he's trying to get oriented. He's trying to understand what this actually means. It's literally a physical maze that he's kind of went into. It's almost like Labyrinth, the movie Labyrinth. It's just like that, or a movie like Alice in Wonderland or something like that. So he's navigating around. He's meeting some interesting characters in this book. The main thing that will attract people to this book, I think, is the heaviness of the story itself mixed with the art style and like the hopelessness that he paints in here. And so I think it's just kind of brilliant. It's like a watercolory, sketchy kind of a feeling in this book right here. He really captures the emotion in the coloring and in the drawing, which I think is just beautiful. A very similar thing happened in The Me You Love in the Dark with Scotty Young. He had a way to tell a compelling story, but the art matched it like so perfectly that it just worked beautifully. And so I think that he's doing the exact same thing. I think Jeff Lemire is doing the exact same thing in this book right here. He's kind of taken his time with it a little bit. There's some twists and turns. Everything's not exactly spelled out for you. There's some things you just have to kind of take for granted a little bit in here, and you have to kind of make up your story as you go. But I feel like Mazebook is one of the better books out there for sure. And it's really one of my firsts in Jeff Lemire's artistry as well. So I've been digging Mazebook for sure. Issue number 4. I'm not exactly sure how many issues we got, but I feel like the story's going to be wrapping up very soon. So check out Mazebook if you haven't been checking it out yet. All right, we got him again. He's a very busy guy. We got Jeff Lemire, Andrea Sorrentino, and we got Dave Stewart on Primordial. This is issue number 4. Now, I was extremely excited about this book. I see that creative team, and it just kind of blows my mind. I love all 3 of them. The premise of the story was very interesting. These books are a little bit reliant on the reader kind of filling in the blanks and kind of using the artistry that Andrea Sorrentino is known for to kind of help fill in a lot of the blanks. This book, maybe not as much as some of the other ones. You can kind of get lost in the paneling in here, which I think is really cool and creative. And the artistry is really beautiful. You essentially have 2 different stories going on here. You have all these animals that we send up in space, presumably that are dead. Guess what? They're not actually dead. They're actually up in some kind of an unknown environment right now. They're learning to kind of communicate with each other. They're trying to find their way back home. You have these scientists and these researchers that are on the Earth that are trying to expose this secret, trying to reach back out to the animals, trying to kind of, reach out to them and let them know that they're not forgotten. They're still here. They should come home, right? And this is the direction you need to come into. So it's these 2 different stories happening at the same time. And so that was kind of compelling and kind of fun. I was hoping for a little bit more. I don't really know what I'm missing in this book. The art's crazy. The dialogue is very, very simple and very easy. And the majority of it in this issue, or at least half, is from animals, and they're using very simplistic sentence structures, right? So you kind of rely on the art, like I said before, to help tell the story, which is totally fine. But now we're about 4 issues in, and I don't know. I feel like I was expecting a little bit more out of it. I'm not entirely sure. I feel like this might be a better read in trade, when you can kind of just binge the whole thing. I'm not exactly sure how many issues this is going to be. It's actually rated mature, which I think is interesting because I don't really recall there being too many crazy things going on in this particular issue. But yeah, Primordial, not a bad book at all, but it's a book that relies heavily on the art to help tell the story, which is true with a lot of books, but like this one in particular. So yeah, Jeff Lemire, Andrea Sorrentino, Dave Stewart, not too bad on Primordial, just expecting a little bit more. I think it's going to read better as a trade. All right, a few more books. We're going to go into Image Comics. This is Newburn, issue number 2, Chip Zdarsky and Jacob Phillips. I absolutely loved issue number 1. Issue number 2 was a continuation of that. We have our female here who's actually kind of partnering up, kind of like shadowing Newburn on the job right now. He interacted with her in the first issue. I won't ruin that arc for you, but now she's kind of tagging along, seeing what he's all about. And what I liked about this book is she's very smart and very capable. She's kind of going behind his back and kind of checking him out, trying to get what the word on the street is about this guy. And I don't think she's liking what she's finding so far. There's a lot of like mystery behind Newburn and maybe his past coworkers and things like that. Like what happened to his partners in the past? He must have had them. She proposes a very interesting reason why he's wanting her to kind of tag along. Maybe he needs some kind of moral anchor, and maybe she can kind of be that person for him, which I think was really interesting. The book is essentially, he's kind of untouchable. He's the guy that any of the gangs kind of go to help solve their issues. And so we have an issue presented here between 2 different rivaling gangs in the city. He's trying to uncover all the truth of there. He's using her to kind of help feel the crowd out, trying to see what's going on. He's very resourceful and capable when it comes to confrontations as well. But I think the cool thing in this book is just the different ways that she's trying to gather information kind of behind his back, which I think is really interesting. So it's like, well, how do you get information on the guy who's seemingly untouchable and extremely smart, very knowledgeable, and has tons of experience in kind of working through cases and navigating this weird city of all these different gangs. So Newburn is pretty interesting. Very, very cool story. Chip Zdarsky's killing it right now. I think the dialogue reads very, very smooth. Chip Zdarsky's really good at writing very smooth, easy to read dialogue, which is really helpful. And then the art style from Jacob Phillips is really impressive too. So Newburn, again, if you want to jump out of the superhero world and get into some indie kind of stuff, detective type stuff, this might be a good read for you too. All right, we're going to hop over to Boom Studios for the last two books. We have Regarding the Matter of Oswald's Body, issue number 2 from Cantwell. What a cool little book here. So basically the time period is we're right before the Kennedy assassination. He is in Dallas. We have this like secret organization, this main guy who's put together this weird team of people who are extremely capable of very specific things. And the objective is we're trying to find a guy at this certain height with this certain build with a gunshot wound in this certain spot. And, he's got to have all these certain characteristics. He's got to look just like Oswald. And they don't really understand why the assassination hasn't happened yet. But apparently there's this gigantic conspiracy. They're getting all these capable people together to try to find maybe a body replacement for Oswald, which I think is pretty interesting. So this whole story right here is about this team kind of coming together. They don't know what the heck they're doing. They don't even know each other. They're trying to do the best they can. And so they're trying to find somebody. They actually do find somebody. It kind of turns into like this weird kidnapping gone wrong kind of situation in here. It's kind of a funny story as well. I'm interested just to see what the objective is right here. And, you do get some scenes from the classic, the historic ride that Kennedy takes right before his assassination. We get all these like foreshadowing moments in here about the actual assassination itself. And you have all these guys that just don't really trust each other. They all come from hard backgrounds and they're all kind of lone rangers, but they're forced to team up for this weird reason. And they don't understand all the rules and everything, but they're just getting paid handsomely to do a job they're told to do. So pretty interesting book here. And we are on issue number 2, Regarding the Matter of Oswald's Body. Pretty fun. The premise is really interesting, but it's not anything mind-blowing. But I'm enjoying the read, so I can't wait for issue number 3. All right, and the last book we read this week was from Boom Studios, Keanu Reeves, Matt Kindt. This is Berserker issue number 6. I love that cover right there, that foil cover. I've been double dipping on Berserker covers. I actually got the trade as well from the Kickstarter from last year. What a cool book. I think this book has a great combination of insane over-the-top violence and gore, but also it has a lot of heart and thought put behind a character that is essentially, he's immortal, and he's been around practically forever. So the basic premise is we have our main character, Berserker, here. He's been around for, billions of years at this point? There's some like cavemen type tribes that are going on. They're constantly getting run over by the competing tribes in the area. Mom makes a deal with presumably one of their gods or something like that, and she gives birth to a child that's essentially immortal. And he grows up and he's the most powerful thing in the world. He can take on whole armies just by himself. He's like Achilles, right, in Troy. He's the guy you want on your side. He's wiping out everything. And he's been doing this forever. He's been hopping from continent to continent. He's been everywhere in the world. And they introduce a lot of cool little details about just how well versed he is with terrain, with environments, with animals. Animals have grown up and they've evolved to just know not to mess with him. All these stories about these extraordinary people that we all have in our cultures, that he's the root of all those stories. It's a very cool book. I love the premise. I love the concept. It's not just mindless violence. There's this whole psychology they built on top of it, and it makes sense, which is what I enjoy. The art's crazy in this book, which is also something I really enjoy. And we have this ulterior motive of the people who hire him to do this job. We have this ulterior motive they're trying to expose. They're trying to take advantage of him. They're trying to harness the power, understand his origin. And every issue we get a little bit more of that. And now we have this new artifact that they've kind of brought into here that they think is kind of the key to unlocking his power. So I'm excited to keep going with this book. I love the balance of action and thoughtfulness that they have in this character right now. And so issue number 6, can't wait to get issue number 7. Been loving Berserker ever since the beginning. And it's kind of one of my guilty pleasures, I think. All right, like we do for every week, we're going to pick out a few books. And how many books should we pick out this week? I think we're going to do 3. I want them to be bangers, though. Okay. So in my opinion, if you only had to pick up 3 books, what are you picking up? Okay. So I got to say Robin and Batman. Been loving the story. I love issue number 1. Issue number 2 is really great, I think, too. Again, it's just this cool, like, understanding the wavelength that these two characters have when you presumably didn't think that existed. You're reading this issue, you're like, wow, these guys are completely out of sync. And then right at the end, they reel it all back in. And no, they were in sync the entire time. And it's a cool little switch. So I really did enjoy that. I'm going to say another book you got to be reading is Berserker. Again, I just went over this. It's just a great combination of heart and violence and great concept and everything like that. I've been loving Berserker. Can't wait to keep reading that book as well. Then we're going to go over to Batman the Imposter, issue number 3. Again, it's a nice little concise, tight story. I like the atmosphere, I like the mood. I love the paneling. I love the coloring in this book too. I think it was a good story about Batman trying to solve a real world problem using real world solutions. He's not, he doesn't have unlimited resources. He doesn't have unlimited experience. This threat is a real tangible threat. He takes care of it, but he struggles. He's scarred for life. There's casualties on both sides. And I really like the vibe and feel and the conciseness of this story right here. So I think those are the 3 books that I would pick up. If I were you, those are the 3 ones I like the most from this month. Let me know down below in the comments what you guys thought of the books this past week. Which ones did you like? Which ones didn't you like? Let me know that too. I want to have that conversation with you. And if you have any clarifications on any of the books that I read this week, if I messed up anything, let me know down below in the comments. Just let me know what you guys think. I appreciate you watching. Like, subscribe, share, hit that bell notification for future videos. We'll see you in the comments.